In On Point 2, I have a special conversation with Rahul, who deciphers sociological contours of the Delhi protest. And now let's take a quick look at the headlines. Major update in Indore honeymoon murder case. Supreme Court cancels interim bail relief to Sonam Wangchuk. Sonam asked to surrender within 3 weeks. Thalapathy Vijay's final movie, Jananayagan, hits the theatres. A static fine celebrate movie release after 7 months of waiting. US signs landmark nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump says deal pertains to non-military use and subject to Saudi joining Abraham Accords. And now, on point 1. Protests in Delhi have assumed a life of its own. For some, it is solidarity against administrative failure of the government when it comes to NEET and education policy. For some, it is against Dharmendra Modi. And for some quarters, it is the opposition reclaiming its space. Till now, government has reacted to this protest in a very guarded way. They responded to the students, but BJP's ecosystem simultaneously has started to describe the protest as misguided and being arrogant. Ministers, though, have taken a conciliatory tone. They have gone a great length to explain as to what all the government has done.
A matter which relates to students, young people of this country, particularly about their preparation for exams, exam paper leakage, and re-exam. These are very, very sensitive for that age of the children who are undergoing the preparation. If the government is not sensitive or not reacting, I can understand the opposition going on a tirade like this. At the level of the Prime Minister, a response has been given. In fact, much before today's announcement of setting up fast-track courts.
Opposition has taken a tough stand on this issue. They have used this opportunity to paralyze the House. Parliament remains non-functional.
बच्चे कुछ कह रहे हैं, पहले उनकी बात सुने, उनकी मांगे क्या है? स्पष्ट मांगे हैं, धर्मेंद्र प्रधान रिजाइन करे। दूसरा, कि जितने भी जिन्होंने इनको मारा है, पीटा है, उन पे कार्रवाई हो। तीसरी इनकी डिमांड, जितनी भी डिमांड है इनको पहले आप फुलफिल करो ना, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है। सिस्टम में भरोसा टूट गया है बच्चों का, स्टूडेंट्स का भरोसा टूट गया है। तो सिस्टम द्वारा अगर आप कोई सोल्यूशन देंगे तो बच्चा उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा। ये सिंपल सी बात है जो सब माँ बाप जानते हैं।
There is a lack of clarity in context of the protest. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation remains a key issue and 3 entities have become stakeholders. First stakeholder is Sonam Wangchuk. Second is CJP at Jantar Mantar. And third is the Congress party. The government understands the dilemma of the protesters, but it is also victim of its own success, political success. It has not been able to frame this fight from an ideological perspective or position, which it does when it takes on opposite side. And also it doesn't want to look weak. So it's a double whammy. The protest also stems from non-quota classes, especially urban middle class, that has been BJP's strongest supporter. So it is like criticism from home. Lastly, participants are children in whom Modi has invested a lot through Mann Ki Baat. Any failure here would be akin to a debacle at home front. For this reason, Prime Minister Modi has avoided making any shrill statements. Ministers are speaking in soft voices. BJP understands that students can chip away legitimacy of his government despite he being in power. More so, unlike 2011 Hazare agitation, the age profile in 2026 is younger and can affect future elections. And lastly, sectional interests too have waded into the protest. Protesters intend to be Gandhian, but protesters also ended up targeting authorities, hitting police, running after RAF. So they also lack the Gandhian rigor and discipline. Easier said than done. Police too have been heavy-handed with children. heavy-handed with children. There is also an attempt to delegitimize them. Government has given assurance but not taken action on the minister. Now, Prime Minister has instructed fast-track courts to do the job. So, today I debate whether this protest is a proxy movement to challenge Modi government. Is that the ultimate motive? Or an expression of deep resentment against India's broken educational system? On this issue, I have three guests and we will have longish conversation on this. I am joined by Rami Niranjan Desai, author and a distinguished fellow, India Foundation. I am also joined by Professor Prasanjit Biswas, Professor of Philosophy, Northeastern Hill University. And I am joined by Ishita Singh, actor and an influencer. Thank you all of you for joining me. Let me straight away go to Rami. Rami, I am not going to frame a question this or that. Mobocracy or democracy. National security perspective or young students doing their bit. I am saying, are we missing woods for the trees here? Is there a deeper malice which we are missing in our education system?
Look, Karthikeya, good evening, first of all. I think like many protests that we've seen in the past, and I do incline myself towards looking at things from a security perspective. And like many protests in the past, we've seen that what is a genuine, legitimate concern turns into something far bigger, far more malicious. Look at this situation. Sure, the NED fiasco should have been something that should have been discussed, should have been negotiated. The government should have much earlier on come out and had a conversation with the students. And yes, it is a part of the larger educational processes, which isn't going to be solved overnight. These are things that people are resistant to, even reforms. You need a larger mandate to, so this is not something that's going to be, solved overnight. However, when it comes to this specific case, there was a point, but that point sort of gets misled when you yourself, as the leaders of this protest, of the grievance that you're bringing forward and being representative of other students, allow political organizations, allow opposition parties, allow all sorts of, groups that are known suspects and have played a very debilitating role for the security apparatus in the previous protests as well, to become a voice for it. You lose then the moral high ground, at least in parts. And that is what my fear is. Now, we've seen, as you rightly said, a certain amount of heavy-handedness from the forces on the students. But we've also seen over 118 police officers being attacked, being taken to hospital. We've seen vehicles burned. We've seen absolutely unacceptable statements being made about the Prime Minister. There was also a very legitimate concern that, the protests would storm into the parliament and into the Prime Minister's home. Now, why should one be held hostage like this? And why would students want to do this or, let the protests go this far when you can stick to your mandate? I just heard Saurav Das give an interview where he said, I want all of our demands to be met. Life doesn't work like that. You can't have all your demands to be met. You can negotiate on demands, you can discuss, you can deliberate.
Okay.
But you cannot say that, we're not going to budge unless every single one of them is met. That's not how it works.
Okay.
So I think we've lost the larger concern here, and now it's going to get diverted and things are going to get out of hand. Okay.
So you are basically saying that there are other issues at hand. Prasannaji, my question to you is simple. 2011 was a movement which was about renewal of politics, India against corruption, if you recall. I covered it on ground there. When I see this, I remember every movement of it. I was there and I was deployed there. I used to cover Congress party. I chose to cover that movement. So I didn't go to AICC 24 Akbar Road. I went there. How is this protest different? How is this protest different?
this protest has a great transformative power, and it has shaken up the establishment completely. The security apparatus is so much shaken up that they are now trying to apply unmitigated, unaccountable power of arresting people. Something similar to the Rowlatt Act has been pronounced today. And this is a blot on democracy. It's worse than emergency situation. The way young people are targeted. One young girl has died this morning, and no one is accepting accountability of this great expression of the thundering young children of the country across the country, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from northeast to the Rajasthan, and covering the whole of the country. There's a huge protest and a transformative protest that is happening now. Now, how does a government deal with it? The constitutional principle of dialogue, respect for human rights, Part 3 of the Constitution have not been shown sympathetically, empathetically, sensitively by anyone from the government. And this has created a situation across the country when our education is already broken, when education has been privatized, educational institutions have been ideologized in a wrong way from the top. And students are the worst sufferer. It's all accumulated anger that has come, and it has become so visible, the optics of which even Godi media cannot deny now.
Okay.
So therefore,
I'll come to that because I'm part of it. I'm going to put the torch.
No, I'm not calling you a Godi media.
I know you're not calling me Godi media. I'm just saying that I'll come to that question. I've been debating it. I've called people in the studio. It's like reverse gaze.
The transformative capacity of this movement is something that will go into India's long history, and that is to be recorded here.
Okay, let me take opening comments from Ishita. She has waited. Ishita, your opening comments.
So I've been the part of the protest on 28th July. There are a lot of, opinions of people from everywhere where they think that the violence has been started from this side of the party, not
Can I
that
ask
side.
you a question? I'm not interrupting you. You are an actor and an influencer. I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know whether you have given need. Why did you go there? That's the first fundamental thing I thought I should ask. I've asked you. Why did you go there? Was it solidarity or was it out of the frustration?
For my future kids, for my, for the future of my nation. It doesn't mean that I have not been a part of the NEET paper. That doesn't mean it's not my issue. Okay. It's an issue of youth. It's an issue of our future. And we all should talk about it, regardless being a part of any political party, being a part of any political party supporters. It is just, it is a conversation about a paper leak which has happened, and the government should take accountability of it. I am not saying that resignation is the solution of it, but there should be accountability. There should be some alteration in education system. We all should talk about it rather than, blaming that CGP is wrong, BJP is wrong, this party is wrong, that party is wrong. That is not the matter right now. There are so many students from so many places. I go on the protest every day. In fact, I just came for this panel discussion. I'll go back again there. I'm meeting the students. I'm having conversation. Some are from Pune, some are from Muradabad, some are from, different places of our country. And they all have the hope from the government that they will be heard one day. And as the person from your panel said, that why are people doing this? Why they have come on the road and doing this nuisance? Nobody wanted to do that. Nobody wants this country to become like Nepal. I, as the youth of the country, I don't want that. But if we'll not be heard, we'll be on the road to the protest, but not that we are, hitting the police. I was there. I was physically there for 8 hours. Whatever I have seen in front of my eyes, I have not seen any of the children throwing the stones, using the lathis, putting the tear gas in air. Nobody was doing that. This is me eyewitnessing every situation. Okay. And I'm talking, being very unbiased about.
And I'm very happy, Ishita, when you said that. I'm very happy, Ishita, when you said that, the youth of this country understands what happened in Nepal, what happened in Bangladesh. I always use the word coup. I don't use the word revolution. I always use the word coup because whatever has happened there is affecting India. It's affecting us.
it's affecting until now. It is affecting. They have left their houses and they are sitting here at Jantar Mantar, pleading for one particular thing, sleeping there, eating there, bathing there. They are doing everything there. It is not good for them as well. Protests are never, a right choice. But I think people have left with no choice right now.
Okay.
The system
Okay,
is
let me go to
lacking.
Rami okay, it's a tough question. You can say no, pass. Is BJP a victim of its own successful model where it frames every political fight from an ideological framework which renders opponents pretty defenseless? Because when you frame a political fight from an ideological framework, you are at a very powerful position. It is an administrative failure, and BJP does not want to look weak. I know you are not the spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, but you do understand that ecosystem. That is why I'm asking that question to you. Is it because of that?
Look, Karthikeya, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
So look, Karthikeya, I think, if BJP is, this, as you put it, that, it's a victim of its own success story. Yes, that's really well put. It is. But to say that, it's an unwinnable competition is the same way it is to say that, we don't have freedom of speech in this country, or we are not allowed to dissent in this country. Every other year, we've seen protests that have endangered the security apparatus of this country, whether it was the farmers' protest, whether it was the CA protest. And I remember the amount of misinformation, and it keeps happening. Farmers' protest, not many people knew what the farmer laws were. Not many people knew why they were there. CA, a lot of people, there was a lot of Instagram sort of information going around that citizens of this country, especially minorities, will have to lose their citizenship. And people bought into that, commented, and reached these protests. Funnily enough, right now, while Ishita's made some very good points, and I was happy that a rational voice like her was at the protest. But while she was saying, I have never seen anybody, any student pelt stones in the protest, you had visuals going on at that point, which showed, I don't know if they're students or not, but they looked young, who were pelting stones. Now, at the end of the day, you cannot control everybody in protests like this, especially when you heighten emotions to the extent that the emotions have been heightened. Ishita herself said that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is not going to solve the problems that we have in our education system. So therefore, then when the Prime Minister says that I'm willing to fix accountability and there'll be a fast-track court, why can't that be a point of acceptance of further discussions on what in the processes can be changed? What is this, a way of protesting based on demands that are based on just heightened emotions, that we want Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation? Is it helping the students? No, it isn't. And therefore these are negotiating processes that I feel that people who have experienced maybe how governance works or how administration works should be at the forefront. Saurabh Das came across very, very arrogant today, and rich of him to say that the government's coming across arrogant because he was imitating exactly what he was accusing.
Okay. So my question is to Prasanjit, the street protests are also part of democracy. Democratic structures are sustained for governance through elections, but that's not the end of democracy. So how are we supposed to treat protest? How are we supposed to say this is legitimate and this is not so legitimate protest? Correct protest and this is not so correct protest, because entire debates or the narrative which I'm absorbing is about this is some would say this is a legitimate protest. Some would say this is not a legitimate protest. A third would say no, there are proxies who have taken over the protest. And there would be a fourth element, sectional elements have got inside the protest. What do they have to do with this protest? So at a time, Professor, and then the people who are protesting says, this protest is apolitical, but the demand they make is the most political.
Any protest can be analyzed in very contrarian terms of analysis that stand in contrary relation to each other. And that's the nature of analysis. But a protest is far beyond analysis. It transcends a kind of an analytical understanding, which is always a kind of a narrow framing. So we have to look beyond our own ideological inclinations and narrow framing, which are governed by certain interests at our back. We should look at the world with a fresh eye, the way the protesters are looking at the things. Now, if the way they are looking at things, some of it is not sounding correct, we have every right to tell them how they can correct themselves. But the main issues and the demands that they have raised, which is extraordinarily legitimate, and this has come after a long experience of all kinds of frailties, fragilities, and failures that were systemic, actually. And somebody in the system has to take the accountability. Now you will fix the system without fixing the accountability. That cannot be a democratic norm. The Constitution tells us that the rights of the people, rights of students, young people, rights of minorities, women, all classes of people are to be protected. And that's the highest purpose of the Indian state. People are the sovereign, and Constitution lays out the moral and the legal principle based on which the interest of the sovereign has to be protected. Now all this is thrown apart. If you have a police force without nameplate, if you have arbitrary power of detaining anybody, if you are not accountable to any kind of questioning, introspection, self-correction, which Delhi police should really introspect now, then what happens to a democracy? Aren't we relapsing into 1975? The black days of emergency is here back again, and this time with super emergency power. On the other side, transformative power of the students and the young people, entire country is witnessing. And it's a great, glorious moment for India's people's democracy, I would say.
Okay, Rami, I'll take a closing. I'll take a closing comment from you. Let me go to Ishita. Ishita, tell me, the roadblock remains Dharmendra Pradhan. You said you have been there since the beginning. Why are people saying that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign? Political parties can demand it. Understandable, Congress can, do it for next 30 days, 40 days. Political parties, it is within their remit to say Dharmendra Pradhan इस्तीफा दें. वो चलता है. लेकिन अगर students को solutions चाहिए, and if the solutions come without resignation, why isn't that working? Because they have become three stakeholders: Wangchuk, CJP, and the Congress party in this agitation.
See, I would like to say one thing on this, that this is no party protest. It is a leaderless protest for me. Why I'm going there? I'm not going there to support any party. I am going there to support the issue of a paper leak, which needs to be talked, which needs to be solved. And why they're asking for a resignation from Dharmendra Pradhan? Because there is no accountability from that side of the party. That is one reason, that there is an anger, there is a rage from the student, that if you cannot hold accountability, you resign from the seat, and then we should talk about what next, how we're going to shape up the education, how we're going to do the alteration. See, we see our constitution, we see our law. In 2024, there was a law for paper leak, that whoever will do the paper leak, they'll have a 10-year of jail. But it never got implemented. So it's not that we don't have the constitutional points in our law. It's just not being followed. And if it's not being followed, how will it get followed? Who should we ask for? If we are asking the government, the protest is happening after like the 13 years of this government ruling in the in this country. After that 13 years, we people are talking about the paper leak. We people are talking about the education ecosystem. So I think we had enough of the patience, and everybody tried to reach out peacefully to the government and ask their demand. But nobody is listening anybody. Until date, the government is not showing any accountability. And I would like to, reply to Rami as well, as she said that why I'm saying that I have not seen anybody hitting the policeman. They were trying to arrest me as well when I was sitting at that protest very peacefully. We were like 15 girls. There were like 4 who were affected by the paper leak, and rest of them just being the part of it to support this cause. We were sitting and we were saying that we want the justice, we want the justice. That's the one line we were using in front of the parliament gate, the Sansad Bhavan gate. And suddenly the tear gas happened, police came, the male police came with the stick in front of me, and he was trying to push me on my stomach. We have the proof. I don't want to show it, because for me that is not my issue. I don't want my sympathy here. I still want my solution for education system.
Okay.
I am not looking for any sympathy. If they pushed me, now I will make an issue out of it. Now I will fight to the policeman. Now I will fight to the government. I will still, you know, jitna bhi circle ghumega, I would still like to come back on a point that let's talk about the education ecosystem. Let's talk about and the improvement we need in the education system. Still, people of class third cannot read books. It is sad for our country.
Okay. No, India's education system is broken. There is no doubt. I don't think either Rami is going to disagree or Professor Prasenjit Biswas is going to disagree. I think we end up creating bachelor, BAs and MAs, people who have done that, but there are no jobs. In fact, there's a recent study that has come. Number of graduates have also decreased in this country. I'm not going to get into other issues like skill development, but the education policy in itself, there's a lot to be desired. Rami, to you.
Karthikeya, you're giving me the final word, so I'd just like to put a few things in perspective. Professor Biswas keeps indicating towards some super law that has been enacted. I think he is indicating towards the National Security Act, which has been around since 1980. It's not a new law, and it is revised ever so often and has been used multiple times before as preventive detention, which
every
is
3 months it is revised. And that authority is given to Delhi Police. That clarification will come, Professor.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I think that's what
That is why it was not part of my script, Rami, because I cross-checked it. Yeah.
Professor Biswas has indicated towards it multiple times, calling it a super law that can, sort of curb civil rights. And I don't think we should, have any confusion in this, that this is nothing new. I'm just reiterating that. This is how misinformation is spread, number one. Number two, preventive detention is what it gives, is also very, very important, because it is clear that this protest has been co-opted by protesters who are pretending to be students who have nothing to do with these protests, and therefore it is very important for security. Number three, when we talk about, when Ishita again mentions that, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is not going to resolve education system, which has a lot to be resolved in, they are asking for accountability, then I am sad to say, while you may think that the protest is leaderless, it is not, because we have seen over and over again a Dipke or a Saurav Das being the spokesperson for this protest and all the protesters, and negotiating the demands, saying that fast-track courts now are not acceptable to them, that all protesters who were detained should be...
Rami, let me cross-question you. Do you agree that there's a problem in our NEET education system, or the way... Do you agree or not? Fundamentally.
Look, I fundamentally agree there is a problem with the education system. I fundamentally agree with the fact that there should be no leaks, no paper leaks. And if there are paper leaks, and if it is recurring, then we need to ask ourselves why and fix accountability in a way to the perpetrators that it doesn't happen again. That still, as a law-abiding citizen of this country, does not give me the right to turn dissent into anarchy. It does not give me a right to threaten the symbols of democracy in this country. And that is what I don't agree with. This is a protest, and it is a protest with a leader. So I think protesters who are supporting these leaders must ask themselves...
I really have run short of time, but I think if you analyze the nature of protests in the last 20 years, the most powerful protests have happened beyond the pale of the legitimate political parties. I don't know whether to say where it started from Tahrir Square, Tunisia, but if you look at most of the nature of most of the protests, even the partisan protests on the war which took place in West Asia, the most powerful protests have happened where leaders are not involved. I think that's the nature of the new politics. I don't know how this postmodern protest works. The lateral protest, network protest, leaderless protest, where a digitally aware person becomes a civic empowered citizen. I don't know how it happens. You would know better, Rami. You are an academician. Professor would know better. But then I think it is also about legitimacy of political parties and in the eyes of youngsters as to what they're doing for them. Leadership in terms of age, that is also at the question. And I think my takeaway of these protests is that I think the younger generation is impatient, and we need to understand, factor that, and our responses should be quicker. I thank you all of you for joining me in this conversation, a civil conversation. Thank God, because it can be really acrimonious. I really run short of time. Ishita, I would have given you time. I have done a podcast. I need to throw to that podcast. I've done it with Rahul Verma on the.
There are 41 paper leaks in the country.
Okay.
After the 41st one, the protest is happening. This is not the first paper.
Chaliye. It makes you happy? Okay, 41 paper leaks. Thank you all of you. And in my on point 2, I have a special conversation with Rahul Verma, who deciphers sociologically the contours of the Delhi protest.
Lion O's family. Super action
इसमें है फाइबर, बीटा ग्लूकोन, प्रोटीन, मैग्नीशियम तत्व, इसलिए ये शारीरिक संतुलन के साथ साथ शरीर को स्वस्थ रखता है। लायन ओट्स फैमिली, सुपर एक्शन फैमिली।
Why has Iran stopped the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz?
They want to attack us, they want to target us, so we have to defend ourselves.
They are punishing countries outside the region as well, like India, and like countries in South and East Asia.
The big problem that they've created now is the closure of the strait.
Ultimately, the main purpose of this exercise is, frankly, to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
Whenever they've got involved in a war on behalf of somebody else, there isn't been just an altruistic purpose.
Welcome to this special edition of On Point. As student protests rock the national capital, the big picture emerging is that the state